Okay. Okay, this is a test. Okay, this is a test. Is this even working with my mic? Okay. Test, test, test. Okay. Test, test, test. Is noise cancellation doing its work, maybe? Is noise cancellation doing its work, maybe? All right. Ooh, ee, ooh, tang, tang, walla, walla, bing, bing. All right. Ooh, ee, ooh, tang, tang, walla, walla, bing, bing. Okay. So, gonna see. Can we edit the live stream? So, see. Can we edit the okay live stream? Okay. Let's see here. Where do we start? Okay. So, what I've noticed is that there might be some people that don't know the optimal settings for stream or for playing the game. Let's say, or let's start this all over again. Okay. So, most people don't know everything about the graphic settings in the game. And with FSR 3.0 upcoming, that was revealed yesterday at Gamescom, we might have to do a bit of an in-depth look and talk about maybe what you should prioritize if you're considering upgrading for another graphics card. Yeah. So, what you would probably want to do with the upcoming FSR 3.0 coming here, also, it should not be the absolute consideration for where you go, what you are going to buy. But let's start up at actually the bottom with, well, Intel ZES or XESS, as you might call it. It's basically a scaling, resolution scaling feature mainly for Intel graphics cards, but it has actually got a fallback to FSR 1.0 for every graphics card you use, resolution scaling to increase frames per second at the cost of image quality. And the cost of image quality, I mean, if you want a good looking game, as obviously I do, I'm not going to use it. It is pointless for me to use, especially with my very high end graphics card, a Radeon 6950 XT. It's kind of pointless of using FSR. I could just go and, well, I have not put shadows to Epic apparently. Doesn't matter. I think shadows looks fine. I'm just gonna apply shadows to Epic. But I just have everything at Epic, and the aliasing doesn't go much higher well, um, yeah, anti-aliasing doesn't go much higher than high. This is just the limit of it. The game looks great, especially at epic settings. I'm getting about 90 to like 120 FPS depending on where in the game I am. It's like the usual. How many units there are can affect this. But okay, let's go to SSGI, which I don't think it's a must play with in settings. You can disable it. It doesn't really do much. And if you have a weak graphics card, I would just put most to low. And it also depends on how much VRAM you have. For example, textures here. If you have like 12 gigabytes of VRAM, I would just put this at epic and have it there. VRAM is such a big player in new games, and it's going to be an even bigger player in future games overall. VRAM is basically what the game loads into a buffer in your in the VRAM on the graphics card. It's, for example, textures, meshes, and yada yada. The game art assets loads into VRAM, and yeah. And if you don't have enough VRAM, maybe some, like in Hogwarts Legacy we have seen, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I mean, tons of games, the game will not be properly rendered out. Maybe you will have missing textures here and there. So yeah, VRAM is a huge consideration right now. And what we can extrapolate from looking at the consoles, which are going to be basically mid-range to low-end soon, within a couple of years, we can easily see that they have, at least the Xbox and the PlayStation, have 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is shared between the GPU part and the CPU part. So they can actually have access to 16 gigabytes of what is equal to our VRAM. And they also have other technologies to quickly load and change the assets of the game to increase, or not to increase, to further alleviate the VRAM limits in a way. So yeah, VRAM, the most important thing I would say right now when considering your choice of GPU. I would definitely not buy a lesser than 16 gigabyte VRAM card if you're playing at especially 1440p. You can get away with less at 1080p. If you play at 1080p, I think you're going to be good or okay with 12 gigabytes of VRAM. But don't expect yourself to be using the highest setting of textures. You might have, in a couple of years, you're going to probably gaming at medium textures if you have 12 gigabytes of VRAM. And you're probably not going to be able to ray trace most games if that is what you're interested in. You're going to want to have a minimum of 16 gigabytes of VRAM at this point. So yeah, there's not too much to be said about the other here. It's just, apart from textures and VRAM, not much else is greatly affecting VRAM. Maybe post-processing in some sense, slightly. Some effect is like affected. And of course, turn off motion blur. It's completely useless for FPS game. It's just gonna make the game look blurry, messy, annoying, and it reduces your performance. It's a loss overall. Yeah. So let's go to talk a bit about the upcoming FSR 3.0 for the game. So personally, I'm not going to use it, I think. I don't see why I would use it. I already have 90 to 120 FPS. It's more than enough for me. It's probably going to like make the game look worse overall. I would say if we look at what Nvidia has done with its DLSS 3.0, it's giving you a lot of artifacts, especially with the UI. I don't like artifacts. I don't like using any scaling techniques overall because I prefer image quality to FPS in most cases. However, for the lower end of graphics cards, using something to get more FPS at the cost of what is it, image quality, if you're just at like 60 FPS, I would, and you're playing at low settings, I mean, go ahead, turn on FSR, get a bit of more performance. Hopefully we also get FSR 2.0. I think 2.0 is usable at 1440p and 4K. It needs an upgrade at 1080p, and I would say that at 1080p, I mean, if you are budget gaming or low end gaming, this is when you want to have this extra buffering or scaling or the extra FPS that you can get out of the game. I mean, you're not looking for image quality, you're looking for a good time. And to get a good time, you're wanting to have around, I would say, 80 FPS at minimum. At least when I'm gaming, I'm looking at, if I'm below 70 FPS, I'm not having a good time. I think the game is, I can notice the game is a bit laggy. If I'm above 80, it's okay. If I'm around 100, yeah, that's perfect. I don't really need more than 100 FPS in any game. Maybe if I'm playing a competitive game, I would like to have as much as possible. But for Starship Troopers Extermination, this is not a competitive game. This is a fun, casual game. I just want some nice image quality. And to get a nice image quality, well, I have, of course, bought a new system recently. And the only thing I regret is buying it before, well, I should have waited a month to buy a new system so I could get Starfield for free. And that's the only thing I regret. I got Jedi Survivor and Resident Evil. And, well, Jedi Survivor is well, it doesn't even look that great, to be honest. It just eats VRAM. Looks okay, I guess. And the gameplay apart, I mean, as a 3D jumper game, you could say it's a bit of a 3D platformer, I think, but it's the best part of it is jumping around from place to place. I wish that the force jump was more efficient in it, but otherwise it's a pretty mediocre to terrible experience, I think, as a game. On the other hand, Starship Troopers Extermination has been my favorite game so far this year. Easily the best game. I think it's, for being in an early access state, this game is solid, pure solid. I'm gonna make a video talking about some upcoming features and what I think about them or what I want to happen. So I just wanted to get this out. I just think that this game has so much potential. It looks great, and I think that especially we want more people. The community here, we want more people playing this game. I want more people to be playing this game. This is going to be a great game, no matter what. But this is going to be a great game if, let's say, the roadmap is intact. I don't know exactly when they're going to go out of early access and into a full release. I hope I would guess it's March to May next year when we get all the features. They have so far delivered a lot of content, I think, in a short amount of time, but I think that most of the content that they're planned for is that they're working on it in a pretty, what should I say, close to release fashion, and they're just like edging or ironing out the rough edges of the game. And well, I have nothing bad to say about the game so far. I love it. I have a lot of hours in this game. Yeah, and another thing before I end this for the graphic side of things, and look at gameplay. I do not really like the shakes that much. I put it to a minimum. I don't think I want it on at full. I think that's just gonna interrupt my gameplay too much. Yeah. Also, yeah, one more thing. Recommendations for graphics cards. I'm going to recommend getting graphics cards with between 12 to 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Anything above that is going to be a bit of an overkill. But on the market right now, the 6700 XT, the Radeon 6700 XT has 12 gigabytes of VRAM. I actually used to play on this before, one of those cards, Sapphire Nitro, big chunky boy. I have a 6950 XT Sapphire Nitro now, and it's an even more chunkier boy. And well, I think that the coolers for those are over designed, but I like them. But I would definitely go with something smaller, like an MSI maybe. But my three favorite brands would be XFX, Power Color, and of course Sapphire. It's a shame that EVGA doesn't make cards anymore, but there's not many good cards from Nvidia to recommend at the moment. I mean, with AMD's or the upcoming Radeon 7800 XT, I think that is the card to buy on the market if you can afford it within the price range. Buy that card. It looks to be a absolute killer, an absolute beast at the price range, and it's priced against a 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes while being like 40% faster or something like that ridiculous amount. And well, even the 7700 XT with 12 gigabytes of VRAM, it's going to be faster than the 4060 Ti with 16 gigabytes of VRAM by like a factor of 20%. And well, probably going to win ray tracing anyway. So the 7800 XT is going to be between a 4070 and 4070 Ti in performance, but the 4070 and the 4070 Ti are really bad cards that are in the end going to run out of VRAM. With ray tracing, the ray tracing doesn't really matter on those cards even. You're not going to be using it for long. They only have 12 gigabytes of VRAM. We already saw the 3070 drop below 6700 XT in certain games with ray tracing turnout due to it having not enough VRAM, and even the 3080 is struggling against the 6800 non-XT, and well, it's tough for I think it's tough to justify buying an Nvidia card when they don't have VRAM, and even when they throw in extra VRAM, like on the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte VRAM, it is just so overpriced. I mean, 8 gigabytes of VRAM costs like $30 US to just add on the card. It's extra. It's not a big cost. VRAM is really cheap right now. It's probably going to go up in price though if the AI boom continues, but right now graphics cards are way overpriced on the VRAM part. I mean, the most affordable 16 gigabyte VRAM card is going to be the 7800 XT, and yeah, then above that you have the 7900 XT at 20 gigabytes of VRAM, and well, if you want ray tracing, I think like the 4080 16 gigabyte is going to be like the second best option that you might buy, or the 7900 XTX, because it has 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and well, the 4090 is in a league of its own basically, but no one can afford it, so who cares? And well, 4070 Ti, not many people can afford that either. The 7900 XT is like the best high-end card with 20 gigabytes of VRAM. It's come down to, it's around $750. And I mean, I don't live in the US, but in Europe I've seen it's down as low as, well, 800 euro, at least in Europe. So it is affordable. And the Sapphire Nitro version, if you can get that out of the 7900 XT, it can overclock up to a 4080. So, well, I would say for the ultra high end, that is my recommendation to buy that. Otherwise, it's the 6700 XT, the 7800 XT that I would say are the only options apart from the 7900 XT 20 gigabyte Sapphire Nitro. And yeah, I would say that is it for me for today. So yeah, have a good day and see you on the bounce, troopers.